minutes out.
And he's going to be writing the forward.
3/4 of the way through. I mean, the last quarter, maybe
Oh.
we'll all fall apart. It's a really good book, anyway.
Well, Naveen, that sets you up nicely. What is the book, and when is it coming out?
Well, the book is called Moonshots, and the idea is really how do you go about solving some of the most audacious problems that does not require the Fortune 500 companies or the nation states to do. So how you and I and entrepreneurs and a small group of people can actually become the next superpower by solving some of these most audacious problems.
It's aimed at people in this room. I'm not sure it's necessarily a mass market book, but it's definitely
So, well, to kick off our space discussions, I have a question for you, Naveen,
Yes.
which is, today, the predominant kind of gift when you love someone is a diamond.
Yeah.
What do you think it will be in the future?
So I really believe that diamond industry should not have existed because they created out of nothing. Diamonds are not rare on Earth, and to some extent, De Beers made them a symbol of love. The moon has been a symbol of love for centuries. All we have to do is rekindle that romance. So as opposed to, when you get the moon rock, you don't have to ever say someone, you love her, because everyone gives someone a diamond. When you love her enough, you give her the moon. And the symbol of love is going to be giving someone a moon. So if you really want, don't promise her the moon, give her the moon. And the honeymoon will be about taking your honey to the moon. Otherwise, it'll be simply honey Hawaii, right? So with that, there's only one person I love most in this room. And I want, since he's reading 3/4 of my book, I want to give him and let him know that I actually love him, and I'm going to give him the moon.
beautiful.
And that's, by the way, extra piece of moon rock.
Could you explain that to me?
So this actually is a real piece of the moon, and I think if you open it up, you can in fact touch it, and this may be,
Don't drop
this
it.
actually the real piece of the moon.
And it came from where?
So this actually came from
We made it in California.
You know him quite well. Do you believe him?
I have one, so I know.
So actually, this is how it happened. As you know, the moon, all the craters you see on the moon is actually the asteroids hitting the moon constantly. And when the asteroids hit them with a large enough velocity, the piece of the moon flies off. And what you're seeing here is really the mixture of the thing that all the rocks in the moon combined together melted, and it actually, some of them get captured by the Earth gravity. This particular one fell on Morocco, and I actually had it sliced, and it was so beautiful. And Anu got the piece of the moon for her pendant, and the ring, and the earring. So, and this is my piece. That's a loving piece, and I want Richard to know I actually love it.
When are we going on our honeymoon? By the way, his book's not full of corny jokes. He's just allowed it once on stage.
Well, thank you. And so if Naveen, if you get Naveen to love you, you're going to get a piece of the moon. Let's start talking about Virgin Galactic and Moon Express. I guess we'll start with a few sentences on what are you trying to achieve with the company, and then what is the state of where it is, where is the project today in its plan?
Well,
Let me start
you
with
go. You go.
No, you go.
Oh, well, I go first. All right. What are we trying to achieve? There's obviously Jeff Bezos, there's Elon, and there's myself and Naveen and various other people. So as far as Virgin's concerned, our aim is not to build massive rockets, which is very extremely important to do. And if you're going to reach Mars, you definitely need a massive rocket. It's to create space vehicles that can really help people back here on Earth. So first of all, obviously, we've got the spaceship that has taken longer than we thought. In fact, we're building a number of spaceships, and they will enable people, like I think quite a few people in this room, one or two have already signed up, to experience space, become astronauts, and get a taste of space. And Virgin Galactic will then go on from suborbital flights to orbital flights. satellites. And our aim is to do it in spaceships rather than, I mean, with Jeff, his idea is you'll have a rocket that'll take you up, and you'll come back down hanging from a parachute. And Elon at the moment is not concentrating on people, although he certainly will be. So I think we see ourselves and Jeff as the sort of two principal protagonists in this area, and we're both, I would say, because of our setback 3 years ago, at a sort of similar stage and things. And then we have another company called Virgin Orbit, which will be putting small satellites into space, and again, it's taken longer than we thought. I mean, these things definitely, I've joked about it is rocket science, and what it is rocket science, and they do take longer. There we're going to have a giant rocket attached to a 747, and that will drop off satellites in space, and we'll work with companies like OneWeb, which is another company we helped start with Greg Weiler, to create a massive array of 2,000 satellites around the Earth, which will connect up a lot of people who are not connected. Where are we? The latest email I got from George Whiteside, who runs Virgin Galactic, is that before the end of this month we should be doing our first powered test, and then we'll be doing another, if that goes well, another powered test in about 6 weeks. Then we'll be moving the whole operations to New Mexico, where we're going to start sending people out into space, and we'll do 1 or 2 more powered tests from New Mexico. I've said it before, but I hope to be up this year, and based on these two's emails to me, I know they would love to be up as soon as possible as well. So I think that I'd be surprised anyway I'd be very disappointed if we're not into space this year. Virgin Orbit also, August, September, should be putting satellites into space and starting putting satellites into space. And so we're hoping that this will be Virgin Galactic's year. We had a very well publicized setback, which was basically pilot error 3 years ago. That's what test pilots are for. I mean, they take these risks, they find out what might happen, what might go wrong before anybody's in these spaceships, and they get these things ironed out. But the fundamental spaceship has not been changed massively since then, because it was always sound. And it's quite large, and it's very impressive. Really invite anybody who's anywhere near Mojave to pop in and have a look.
How many people will it take up?
There'll be 8 in total, two astronauts, 6 people at the back, and we're building 3 spaceships, so we could in time take about 18 people up.
And are you still intending to go up on one of the early flights at some point?
I'm still intending to go up on the first official flight when our astronauts give us the go ahead. So I'm sort of I was getting into training. I went and wrenched my shoulder kiting the other day by stupidly getting the kite right behind me. But anyway, that'll be mended soon. So I should get back to my training for it.
Great.
Well,
Naveen.
first of all, I'm really looking forward to the Virgin Galactic being going, and I'm hoping that Richard will take me with him on his first flight. But the goal of the Moon Express really is, in the long term, to create a multi-planetary society, because we really believe this spacecraft that we live in, if somehow we get hit by a large asteroid, we all could become a dinosaur. And to some extent, if we don't find a way to learn to live on other planets, we may not survive as a species. Planet may survive, but the human species may not. In a short term, we really are thinking about how do we build a platform that allows us to be able to live on the moon. Can we convert the water on the moon into its ingredients, hydrogen and oxygen, rocket fuel, and the fuel for humanity? Can we really look at the lava tubes and to be able to live there? And I really think the biggest change was things that Richard really started. How do we reduce the cost of space exploration? In the good old days, the first time when we landed on the moon, it cost us $25 billion. In today's dollars, there'll be 100 billion. We thought going to the moon could be 1 billion. It turns out our cost of going to the moon now is going to be less than $10 million. Think about that for a second. The rocket, we are using a low Earth orbit rocket. We don't have to build a big rocket. And those are the kind of things that Richard really pioneered. So we are using a rocket that essentially will take us to low Earth orbit and only cost $3.5 million. And you can buy them on a website. So think about it. You go to a website, add to cart, and buy. That's amazing, right? And some, we will, of course, as soon as the launcher 1 is ready, it is really the right rocket for us because it has the right amount of acceleration and the velocity that we need to be able to go to the moon much better and take a bigger payloads that makes it worthwhile business. So I really think in the long term, we are going to become a multi-planetary society. And just to let Richard know that we are the only company in the universe that has a permission to leave Earth orbit and land on any celestial body. So despite how much I love Richard, he's still stuck in the low Earth orbit.
This is what they tease each other about. Let's go to Naveen first on this one. What has been the most difficult challenge with this project?
To large extent, as Richard mentioned, this is a rocket science. And the rocket science, so rockets blow up and the things happen you don't anticipate. And this is a completely new industry. So surprisingly, the things like most traditional financing mechanisms don't quite exist for something completely new. People don't understand there's no proven business models. You can talk about 10 different ways you could make money, but there is really no something somebody could say, this has been done, this exists. And to large extent, Richard has been extremely fortunate in that because especially the Virgin Orbit, the market exists about internet connectivity. So you can say, yes, if you're able to do that, there is a business you can create right on planet Earth. And that I really think is, from a business perspective, is a great thing that everything that Richard is doing, there is a business model today that exists on Earth. But when you're going something so far out of creating a multi-planetary society, the benefits may not be immediate. Benefits are, could we bring helium-3 to essentially power this planet with a clean fusion energy? Could we bring back the moon rocks and really replace the diamond industry? Could we really start to create the fuel depot that will allow the deep space exploration so you don't have to carry all the fuel from planet Earth, because 93% of all the weight of the rocket really is the fuel. So what if you don't have to carry the fuel from the Earth? You can really refuel them in the low Earth orbit or the geosync orbit or the lunar orbit, and that will start to reduce the cost of the space exploration. So there are lots of ways you can do that, but there is nothing. So biggest challenge really has been in terms of financing and in terms of the rocket science. How do you miniaturize these parts, whether using the 3D printing, using some of the latest technology so it's light, because every gram of weight you add to it, it adds another gram of weight you need for the fuel. So really reducing the weight, reducing the things, using the latest technology, and that's really what has been the most challenging.
Richard?
Yeah, I think, the lightness, talking about graphene earlier.
Yeah.
If spaceships could be made with a lot of graphene material, does anybody know anything about graphene in this room? I'd love to, when we finish, when we ask questions, I'd love to get a bit of input from you two. If we could mix graphene into materials for the spaceships, for our fuel tanks, all these sort of, and the lighter it is, the easier it's going to be. I think the biggest challenge that we set ourselves was, we cannot we can't lose a person every 1,000 flights. It's got to be every single flight. We've got to know that the rockets are 100% safe, that they can be switched off at just the second we see anything going wrong. So it's taken us 12 years to get to a stage where we feel, we've tested and that we feel safe to put myself, my children, and other friends' children on a spaceship. Even now, we're not quite there. obviously we got some more test flights for our brave astronauts to do before we do that. It's incredible the amount of, I mean, over the last 3 years, our team has said, right, I think 3 months. It's just the last mile is really tough. And so I've sort of almost given up. When I think next week we're going to do this flight, I'm not even sure about that. But I think if people want to watch that, I think next week is quite likely the week after. Anyway.
Great. Here's a question for you. Paint a vision for us in 5 or 10 years. We'll start with you, Richard. Where will Virgin Galactic and Virgin Orbit be in 5 or 10 years?
Well, I hope that we will have contributed to connecting with Virgin Orbit. The 4 billion people are not connected, and if you're not connected, you basically stay in poverty in this day and age. I mean, anybody in this room who's not connected for half an hour starts to struggle. I suspect. Anybody who doesn't start to struggle after half an hour? One person in the back who doesn't. So I think we can make a big difference to a few 100 million anyway of those people's lives, and the actual cost of, as Naveen said, the cost of actually putting those satellites up, we can bring down dramatically. Therefore, the cost of those satellites has come down dramatically. They're going to be low Earth orbit satellites, so every 5 years they'll fall out and burn up, which means they'll get replaced. And because of the price of putting them up, that's actually a very efficient thing, because technology is moving so quickly that you then put up another one at a really quite a low price in 5 years' time. And obviously it's good business for Virgin Orbit as well, so we'd hate them to stay up forever. So I think, as far as Virgin Galactic is concerned, I'd love in 5 years' time for us to have, say 15 spacecraft for New Mexico to be a hive of activity. I mean, really exciting place for people to go and watch and see people going up into space. We're also working with another company, and once we've actually ticked the boxes over the next 2 or 3 months, hopefully Virgin Galactic will get a lot more involved in point-to-point travel. Now that you've got much lighter weight planes, whereas Concorde was not economical, I think with lightweight planes going supersonic is likely to be economical now.
What's your estimate on when we will be able to take the New York to Tokyo in 3 hours? Like what year do you envision that might happen?
7 years, maybe.
7 years.
Something like that. And again, I've got these estimates wrong, but you asked me for an estimate. No, there's no reason why it shouldn't be. I mean, you don't have to. There's not a massive breakthroughs in technology that are needed. Anyway, it was a taste from our end, and then obviously I'm sure that we're going to get tempted to go. At the moment, everything we're doing is shaped like a spaceship. It is a spaceship. Whether we'll start building rockets to compete from the ground, I'm not sure. I mean, we may well just leave that to Elon and Jeff. It's taking on Jeff and building big rockets. Where's my pocket? I think my pocket isn't quite as deep. And Elon's been very smart in getting a lot of government support, and there's a limit to the amount of money, the support you can get from government for things like that. We'll see.
Well, I know there's a lot of people in this room who are going to want to sign up for those international flights. So as soon as they become online, let us know first. Naveen, where is Moon Express in 5 to 10 years?
I think, as I said, I think I'm looking forward to the point-to-point, going from LA to Sydney in under 2 hours. That'll be really cool. I think from a Moon Express perspective, I think we are planning to launch our first mission later this year, but I think most likely, like any other rocket science, is going to probably be early next year. We have been very fortunate in some sense. NASA has now decided to go back to the moon. That means we're going to start getting some tremendous amount of funding coming from NASA in terms of doing it. And one of the things they really are insisting is us to really launch it on the 50th anniversary of Apollo landing. So they really are pushing us not to do something until the July 20th of next year, 2019. There'll be a 50th anniversary of Apollo landing. So I think, absolutely in the next 10 years, humans will be on the moon. And I think, I would say in the next 15 years, I won't be surprised if there is a baby born on the moon and the parents looking at the baby and looking up and saying, the planet Earth, we come from that planet. And I really think that could be quite a possibility for us to be living on a completely different planet and really looking and saying how beautiful the planet was where we used to live. Right, and hoping that our people here have still taken great care of it, that it looks even more beautiful from the moon and other places that we might be on. Other thing that I really would be surprised is that I think the technologies that are being developed are going to fundamentally improve the people's life right here on planet Earth. If we are able to find a way to really harvest helium-3, that could be one of the best clean energy source for fusion energy. We know we don't have fusion reactors, but we don't have helium-3 either, right? So the point is, in the next 10 years, there is going to be the fusion energy, and they would need the helium isotopes. And I really think bringing that from the space could be one of the interesting things to do. And there are many, many ways of getting clean energy, and that's one of them. So I'm hoping that could also happen. But overall, this is the time that I really feel that we will be the generation that finally makes it possible for human not to be bound in one single planet. And I really think it will happen in our lifetime, where we will be visiting other planets outside the planet Earth.
There was a friend of mine who was drawing up a plan for Mars and colonizing Mars, and he doesn't drink, and he had a bar on the Mars plans. I said, I'm surprised that you put a bar in. And he said, oh, don't worry, Richard, that's just a Mars bar. He can be corny, I can be corny back.
There's always a competition going on. Obviously, Elon Musk made some really big news recently by putting up 2 satellites for the Starlink project, which is also targeting global Wi-Fi between Virgin Orbit, maybe Elon, and we imagine there might be other projects going forward. I mean, that seems inevitable at some point. What happens to the telcos? Where do you guys envision that playing out? Is it inevitable that we have global Wi-Fi through satellite? And do the telcos go away?
Telcos don't go away. We just create new type of telco. There is just no doubt in my mind we're going to have a swarm of low Earth satellites. And I think, as Richard pointed out, these things can be done really, really cheaply. And when you say really cheaply, you really mean think of your cell phone, that could be the satellite. So really $1,000 type of things you would be floating in space that could be providing you with lots of the things, interconnected mesh network, really providing a whole bunch of bandwidth to the planet Earth. So I think, I really think that what Richard and the Virgin Orbit is doing, that's where I'm going to bet on compared to what I think Elon is doing. Because I really think it makes so much sense to have low-cost swarms of low-cost satellites providing the bandwidth to the Earth.
And you've got Virgin Mobile, so.
Yeah, I think the thing that sort of stops a company like OneWeb becoming a massive global competitor is licenses. So their licenses already have been given around the world. So I think there may be a little bit of extra competition, but it's more likely, I think, that OneWeb will offer its bandwidth to current incumbents. They do a certain amount direct in certain countries, but some places they'll have problems, I think.
Before we switch to some audience questions here, is there anything, other project happening in the space industry that you find particularly interesting that someone else is doing?
obviously what Elon's doing is breathtaking, and you have to give your hat, take your hat off to him. And our team have been trying to think how we're going to upstage the Tesla car, and we're having a lot of fun coming up with a lot of ideas of what music we're going to use, and obviously I'm British, James Bond, anyway, we're working on fun ideas, but hopefully we're coming up with, I think we've come up with one which will make people smile, which is obviously important as well.
So a car
No, well, not necessarily. I think we did when we went through the Bond car and all that, but I think that fell by the wayside.
Naveen?
Well, obviously, you have to admit this is.
Maybe Rolling Stones get off my cloud. That might be the music I might use with value to Elon. We'll see.
This is a time. There's so much excitement in this space, and there is no way, any which way you look at it, what Elon has done is really recaptured the imagination of the people, just like the Apollo did. So I really think he has done a lot of good things in terms of bringing the affection and the romance of space back to the common people. And I think to some extent, I would never underestimate Jeff. I mean, he's just so methodical. He's not a showman like Elon, but he's doing some amazing stuff. And I've seen him when everyone thought that Amazon was going to be the company that goes bankrupt because they never figured out how to make money. And now here he is, the richest man in the world, right? So Point is extremely methodical about what he does. And I really think what some of the stuff he's working on is going to change a lot of the stuff in the space industry. I am obviously extremely excited about what Richard is doing because I cannot wait to get to space fast enough. And I've waited long time. I'm thinking this is the year and that is going to happen. And I really think that there are other entrepreneurs. The thing is about this is the rocket cost that was $3.5 million. I know people who are building it for $1 million. There is no doubt when you start to look at the reusable rockets and you start to look at how the low-cost rockets can be built using 3D printing, a lot of the newer technology, lighter things, there is just no doubt this is going to become so cheap that we'll be launching them from our backyards, and launching the satellites and launching things. It's going to become so much easier. We have 2 launch complexes at Cape Canaveral, and we're thinking we could launch the rockets every half hour and just keep doing this thing day in, day out. So I think this is an amazing time we should all be excited about, that we finally is the generation that made space accessible.
Will space have the space is the one.
Well, any governments that you feel are particularly innovative now, if any, and you can say none.
I don't think so. Oh, China, if any, but no.
I actually find the US to be actually for the first time starting to see the light of private-public partnership. I really think China is doing some amazing stuff, but I would compete any day with the government because governments are just governments, right? And I think private-public partnership with NASA really is shifting of helping Elon, helping everyone. This is a big change. I really think I've never seen a US government really being so pro-public-private partnership, and I really think that is going to change the game in this space.
Yeah.
One of you alluded to space junk for a minute.
Yeah.
Is that a big concern?
It's not a big concern in low Earth orbit. It's becoming a big concern further up because if something, if 2 satellites hit each other and splinter into thousands and thousands of little bits, traveling at 18,500 miles an hour, that can do quite a lot of harm. And quite a lot of that has happened. So I think, hopefully there will come a time when governments get together and say to Virgin and to Elon and to Jeff, and can you please go and clear space up for us? And that would be a good contract to get anyway.
The garbage collection has always been a good business, right?
Yeah.
But the person who creates the garbage, the first one goes down in history as Elon Musk, who actually threw in the garbage up in the space that was really not needed.
Yeah, that's again, we're trying to think of something where we're not going to get accused of that as well. So, yeah.
Well, your next big business opportunity is
Garbage collector.
Let's switch to the audience for a few minutes here.